Welcome to the Platform Weekly Roundup: Law, Rights, Security, and Society. This week, from September 14th to 20th, 2025, has been a revealing one for Kenya. From courtrooms to trade talks, from human rights concerns to wildlife protection, each story carries not just legal and security implications, but deep consequences for Kenyan society. Let's dive in.
One of the biggest stories this week was the High Court's decision to issue an arrest order for a former British soldier accused of murdering Agnes Wanjiru, a young Kenyan woman killed in Nanyuki back in 2012. The case has haunted both her family and the community for over a decade. On the legal front, Kenya is testing its extradition powers as the accused remains outside its borders. Human rights advocates have underscored the importance of dignity and accountability, particularly for women who are too often sidelined by the justice system. For society, the implications are heavy. Communities around the military bases in Laikipia and beyond are asking whether Kenyan lives can be taken with impunity. Trust in law enforcement and in Kenya's ability to protect its own citizens is at stake. To the Wanjiru family and many others, this case represents more than one individual tragedy. It symbolizes the broader struggle of families who have waited years, sometimes decades, for justice.
Another headline this week involved the re-emergence of Faisal Mohammed Ali, a man previously convicted of ivory smuggling. He now faces fresh charges of trading rhino hormones worth more than 8 million shillings. Legally, this case exposes gaps in Kenya's prosecutorial system, especially since repeat offenders continue to find their way back into illicit markets. From a security perspective, wildlife trafficking is not just an environmental issue. It funds organized crime networks that threaten national stability. For society, however, the matter runs even deeper. Kenyans know that rhinos and elephants are not just animals. They are a source of national pride, a cornerstone of tourism, and a symbol of heritage. Every horn that leaves the country illegally is not only lost revenue, but a blow to Kenya's image on the global stage. Tourism jobs, conservation projects, and community livelihoods all hang in the balance when wildlife crimes go unchecked.
Civil society organizations continued this week to raise concerns over the misuse of anti-terrorism courts and the heavy-handed police responses to protests. Legally, counter-terror laws were created to deal with extremism, but protesters and political critics sometimes find themselves caught up in these special courts. This raises questions about due process and judicial overreach. From a human rights perspective, arbitrary arrests, forced disappearances, and the intimidation of activists are alarming trends that undermine Kenya's constitutional guarantees. For society, the impact is immediate and personal. Ordinary citizens who wish to demonstrate about the rising cost of living or government accountability now live in fear. When peaceful assembly carries the risk of abduction or imprisonment, frustration grows. A society where dissent is criminalized risks alienating its youth, the very generation upon which Kenya's future depends.
Kenya's push to seal a trade deal with the United States before the African Growth and Opportunity Act, known as AGOA, expires was another major theme of the week. On the legal side, such a deal will require parliamentary approval and may introduce new regulatory standards. From a rights perspective, negotiations must balance labor protections, fair wages, and environmental safeguards. The societal stakes, however, are most urgent. For factory workers in export processing zones, this debate is not about policy papers or diplomatic language. It is about whether their jobs will still exist next year. Without AGOA, thousands of livelihoods in textiles and agriculture could vanish almost overnight. That would ripple through families, schools, and local markets. The way this agreement is structured could determine the fate of Kenya's middle class for a generation.
When we look at these stories together, a clear pattern emerges. Delayed justice, whether for a murdered woman or endangered wildlife, weakens faith in the courts and raises questions about whether laws serve everyone equally. Heavy policing of protests creates a chilling effect. silencing communities but also risking deeper anger that may erupt in unrest. Trade diplomacy, while seemingly remote, shows how decisions negotiated in boardrooms directly affect the food on the table, the ability to pay school fees, and the prospects of employment for thousands of families. Kenya's societal fabric is under pressure, but it is also showing resilience. Communities are speaking up, demanding justice and holding leaders accountable. Even when institutions fall short, people are pushing back and refusing to let their rights or their future be ignored.
That's the week in review. A mix of justice battles, security challenges, human rights struggles, and the everyday lives they shape. Kenya stands at the crossroads of law and society, where courtroom rulings, police actions, and trade agreements ripple outward into homes, markets, and villages. Until next week, stay aware, stay engaged, and never underestimate the power of an informed society.
Thank you for watching. If our video resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to stay updated. Join our community in the comments to share your insights and foster discussions that drive positive change. See you next time.